Leave her alone. I hate every man in this room right now. Be nice to my friend Meryl. Hi there, my name's Leija. I'm a real-life lawyer on a mission to demystify the law and how it affects your everyday life. Today, I'm gonna watch and react to Kramer vs. Kramer, the 1979 legal classic starring Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman. Meryl Streep was a Vassar girl, which, same. She graduated in 1971, so this was 8 years after she graduated from my alma mater. While I was at Vassar as a student, she did make certain appearances and many people had spottings. Meryl's spottings were very common. I never got one. One time, she was at a graduation ceremony for the year ahead of me because her daughter was in that class, and I saw her, but she was one football field away on the graduation stage, and everyone else saw her too, so not special, but I'm still gonna brag about that connection. We love Meryl in this household. I'm not gonna do any more yapping. Let's get started. Ah, Meryl, what a woman.
Hi, I forgot my keys. I just gotta call the office before they go.
Joe, you're gonna be real proud of me.
Yeah, hi, Ted Kramer. Listen, I gotta get those photos from the retoucher by tomorrow morning, okay?
I'm leaving you.
Honey, please, I can't hear.
I feel like every late 70s, 80s, 90s movie, the dad is always like, businessman, businessman, I do business. Well, do we know what business? No. I think Dustin Hoffman in this movie does like marketing and stuff, but it's like every single movie, the man is business. He just wears a suit and business. I challenge you to find a movie in the 80s and 90s where the dad isn't just, I am businessman.
Please don't make me go in there. Don't make me go in there.
We'll just talk.
If you do, I swear, one day, next week, maybe next year, I don't know. I'll go right out the window.
Oh, please, now come on now. What about Billy?
I'm not taking him with me. I'm no good for him. I'm terrible with him. I have no patience. He's better off without me. And I don't love you anymore.
Iconic. I have a feeling this is a custody movie, so this type of information, suicidal, not good with the kid, just kind of walked out, not trying to work on anything, not trying to work anything out. This could be used in a custody battle at some point for little Billy, little Bill. Oh, Dustin. My.
Well, obviously my wife and you have had numerous conversations about my shortcomings, which I have not been privy to. And I would love to sit here and talk to you, but somebody has to bring home the bacon. And I have a major presentation in the morning, and I just got to get my work done.
Business. I am business. Unbelievable.
Is there another guy?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, she's not the type. She's got this friend Margaret downstairs, you know, and they you know, women's lib, and I think they may have cooked.
Women's lib. Oh my God. Give me a break, Dustin. Come on.
Put it down right now. I am not going to say it again. I am not going to say it again. I am not. Ow! Don't you kick me.
Yikes. 70s parenting. What a ride. I will say that kid was being a little shit. I don't know why you guys procreate.
Daddy.
Now, what is it?
Are you going away?
No. I'm staying right here with you. You're not going to get rid of me that easy.
So our mommy left, isn't it? Because I was bad.
Abandonment issues.
I just think I have an open and shut case.
Well, first, Mr. Kramer, there's no such thing as an open and shut
Wow,
case.
look at that guy. They don't make lawyers like they used to. Maybe I should get a little flower for my lapel. I bet that guy dictates every letter he's ever written to some sad admin assistant who he also sexually harasses on the side. Yikes.
Now, the burden is on us to prove that your ex-wife is an unfit mother. And that means that I'll have to play rough. And if I play rough, you can bet they will too. Can you take that, Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Now, how old is the child again?
My son is 7.
Oh, that's tough.
Why?
Well, in most cases involving a child that young, the court tends to side with the mother.
But she signed over custody.
I'm not saying we don't have a shot, but it won't be easy.
All right, let's talk about New York custody laws. Note that I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer, and nothing that I say should be construed as legal advice. You should always seek the advice of a licensed attorney before making any legal decisions. And I'm especially not a family law lawyer, but I did a little research and here's what I found. So the basics are you got two different types of custody. You got physical custody, you've got legal custody. Legal custody pertains to any sort of big decisions that you're making for the child, like medical care, what their religious upbringing will be, etc. The custody can be split, meaning that both parents make those major decisions for the child. However, the parents need to be able to communicate well enough to be able to come to a consensus about the big decisions being made for the child. If that's not possible, then legal custody is going to be granted to one or the other, typically. And then you have physical custody. The parent that's granted physical custody has custody over the child for their day-to-day care, where they live, etc. Custody can be awarded 100%, but it can also be divided 50-50. If it's not divided 50-50, then whoever has more than 50% has physical custody, and then the other parent has visitation rights, unless it would be detrimental to the child for the parent to have visitation, then they won't get it. Basically, all of the questions, all of the factors that judges are weighing when they think about child custody cases come down to what is in the best interest of the child. Of course, this leaves a lot of discretion to a judge to determine what best interests really means for a child, and sometimes it can go in the wrong direction because of old school beliefs on the part of the judge that family units are more important than splitting a family up, even when abuse occurs, and I'll talk about that in a second. But a judge is trying to take all of the relevant factors into consideration and come to a determination that is going to be for the best interests of the child. A lot of times the child will be assigned an attorney or a guardian ad litem to help them advocate for themselves. That attorney will work with the child to figure out what the child wants and then communicate that to the judge. A lot of times if the child is younger, this doesn't happen, but if a child is over a certain age, then what they want will be considered as a factor in the judge's determination. Throughout a custody process, the parents are given ample opportunity to come together, have conversations, and figure out a custody arrangement, because like pretty much every other aspect of our legal system, judges much prefer if parties come to an agreement, come to some sort of settlement outside of the courtroom. It saves a lot of time, it saves a lot of energy and resources. Everyone pretty much, but not always, benefits when it settles outside of court, because trials are expensive and take a long time and can be re-traumatizing, especially for children involved in custody issues. So there won't be a custody battle if the parents are able to reach an independent agreement. It's only when one parent applies for custody and the other parent disagrees, or there's some sort of tension or disagreement as to the division of the custody, where a custody battle then comes into play. So the court, like I said, considers a number of different factors when determining what's in the best interest of the child. The court will consider each parent's lifestyle, their stability, their income, their jobs, where they live, the quality of life that they have. They'll consider whether a parent uses drugs, whether the parent offers a clean and stable home. They'll also consider where the child has already been living, with the goal of not completely uprooting the child's life if at all possible. They also look at how much time each parent spends with the child. The court will also obviously consider whether there is domestic violence involved. The court also looks at the age of the children. Some judges are a bit more old school and consider that the younger the child, the more important it is that they stay with the mother, though that is starting to kind of fall out of fashion, because obviously there are some mothers where living with them is not in the child's best interest, even if they are really young. The judge also considers the proximity of the parents' homes to one another, especially if there was a primary family home before the parents split up. If the child is living in that home and the other parent lives close by, that's going to be more conducive to setting up some sort of time-sharing situation. But if the other parent moved across the country, say to California, like Meryl did, that's going to factor into the judge's decision. The judge is also going to look at the relationship that the parents have with each other and in relation to the child. So if there's a parent that's clearly trying to pit the child against the other parent or use the child as leverage for some reason, that's going to weigh heavily against that parent. But if the parents are supportive of the other parent's ability to maintain a relationship with the child, that's going to be more conducive to a custody sharing arrangement. And judges look at the parent's relationship to the child before the separation. If one parent all of a sudden develops a very strong desire to have a relationship with the child when before they didn't, a judge is going to look at that and consider whether or not it is a genuine interest. In this case, it looks like Dustin Hoffman is spending a lot more time and it's genuine, and a judge is going to respect that. But if it seems as though a parent is just having interest in being a parent now that there's a divorce and it's contentious, a judge would look unfavorably upon that. And then they also look at continuity and stability. So when it comes to custody, judges tend to go towards the status quo. How has the child been living? Where is the child most comfortable? How can we keep it as stable and the same as it has been prior to the parent separation? I will say, however, it is not true, at least now, I don't know what the law was in 1979, but now the father doesn't have any higher burden of proof than the mother does. Both parents equally have the burden of proof of showing why they deserve custody or why the other parent does not deserve custody. It is up to them to prove what's in the best interest of the child, but the weight is equal. It's not like the father has to prove more than the mother. I'm starting to get this feeling from this movie that it's a veiled fathers are discriminated against in the family court system piece of propaganda. And like, this is not new. This is a thing that's still happening. If you just Google bias against fathers in family courts, you're gonna find a lot of like support group, activist groups, men's rights groups talking about this issue. This ignores the very real fact that sometimes courts favor the father because they are trying to maintain that continuity and maintain that status quo and the family unit being together. So even in situations where there is domestic violence, sometimes a court will order that the child still have contact with the parent in order to form some sort of continuity. I have heard horror stories about this in the time that I've spent working in various roles for domestic violence advocacy. So sometimes there are old school judges who put the interests of the father and the continuity of the family unit above the best interests of the children. This argument also ignores the very real fact of father absenteeism and the fact that sometimes domestic violence is involved in these custody battles. And there are many layers of complexity when domestic violence is present. There is evidence that the system too quickly assumes that domestic violence only affects mothers. Like, if the father has never hit the child, then the father should still be in contact with the child, even though it is obviously traumatic to have your father hit your mother and to be in a household with an abusive person. There is also this weird assumption that if the mother has moved out of the abusive household, then the abuse has stopped and that the child should still be able to see the abusive father if the father's never hit the child. But the fact that the father hit the mother doesn't raise red flags, you know? Like, what I'm saying is that domestic violence adds a lot of layers to this that you can't just blanket say the family courts are biased against fathers. It's patently untrue. Each case is very individual depending on the circumstances. And of course, there are great fathers out there and there are horrible mothers out there. And you also can't throw a rock without hitting a biased judge. You've watched any of my videos. For example, Trial of the Chicago 7, my reaction video. Oh, that's probably over here. Biased judge, true story. It happens. So I'm not saying that no father has ever experienced a biased situation in family court. I'm just saying that the narrative is harmful and overlooks a lot of factors that go into child custody battles. It's almost like we should treat people as individuals who aren't dictated by their gender. The patriarchy hurts everyone, people. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Let's move on.
You know that my wife is fighting me for custody. You know that we're going to court. Do you know what my chances are if I'm out of a job?
He's not wrong. That's definitely a factor that courts are gonna look at. Oh man, New York in the 70s. What a time.
Okay, look, I gotta tell you something. I got fired today. They let me off.
Ted, I won't lie to you. We don't have a hope in hell of winning a custody hearing if you're out of work.
Told ya.
All right, just wait a minute now. I'm not so sure about her mental health.
What do you mean by that?
She told me she was seeing a shrink, a psychiatrist or something.
That's some foreshadowing. I bet they're gonna use that against her at some point because, you know, it's 1979. Yikes. These days, seeing a therapist likely wouldn't be counted against you in a custody battle, especially because, like, then no women would ever win custody battles because, like, we're the only ones that are regularly seeing therapists.
Did you hold a job before you were married?
Yes, I did. When I first got out of Smith, I worked in the art department of Mademoiselle magazine.
Did you continue to work after you were married?
No.
Did you wish to?
Yes. But every time I talked to Ted, to my ex-husband about it, he wouldn't listen. He refused to discuss it in any serious way.
Tell me, are you employed at the present time?
Yes, I'm a sportswear designer for SOKO here in New York.
I think that information about her wanting to work, having a job before marriage, wanting to work during the marriage, and then finding a job after the marriage is very strong evidence of her employability and of her stability and of her ability to get a job, which are all very important factors that, especially in 1979, when it was a lot more common for women to quit working once they got married and had children, I think would play very heavily in her favor in this custody battle. I don't know that it would weigh against him, but it would certainly weigh in favor of her. Also, I think her whole monologue is really interesting because it does really humanize her in a way that makes this seem less like a men's rights propaganda film than I originally thought it might. It also helps that Meryl is just iconic and an amazing actress, so you can't help but believe her and see the humanness in her as she's acting out this character. I will say, however, that a lot of this information that Dustin Hoffman is clearly just discovering now as she's explaining it on the bench would have come out before this ever got to trial, because they would have been ordered by the judge likely to come together and have settlement talks and have other discussions around trying to come to a conclusion about custody before getting to a trial phase. So I don't think this would happen in real life. I think that she would have had this opportunity to say this to him and him to her earlier in this process so that maybe this whole trial could have been avoided. But that doesn't make for as good of cinema, so we get to see him react as she's explaining it on the witness stand, which is more engaging, I would say.
Your Honor, I would like to submit in evidence a report by Mrs. Kramer's therapist, Dr. Eleanor Friedman.
Objection, Your Honor. The report is irrelevant and immaterial and not binding on the respondent.
Overruled.
Yeah, I would overrule that as well. How come a psychiatric evaluation isn't relevant to a custody battle? It's completely relevant. Sit down.
In all that time, did your husband ever strike you or physically abuse you in any way?
No.
A heavy drinker?
No.
Was he unfaithful?
No.
Well, I can certainly see where you left him.
Objection.
That's right, because if a man doesn't beat you or cheat on you, then, like, why would you ever leave? That's as good as it's gonna get.
How many boyfriends have you had permanently?
Objection, Your Honor, on the grounds of vagueness.
I'll allow it.
Objection on the grounds of vagueness? I would object on the grounds of relevance. Like, I get what he's getting at, like, what's permanence in your life? Like, permanence doesn't mean anything to you, but, like, number of boyfriends, not relevant. Leave her alone.
So, you were a failure at the one most important relationship in your life.
Objection.
Overruled. The witness's opinion on this is relevant.
How is the witness's opinion on the failure of her marriage relevant to the custody battle? I hate every man in this room right now. Screw off.
Were you a failure at the one most important personal relationship in your life?
Objection, badgering the witness, like, come on.
It did not succeed.
Not it, Mrs. Kramer. You. Were you
Objection.
a failure at the one most important
Whoa.
relationship in your life? Were you?
I'm sorry. You can't yell at a witness like that. No judge is gonna allow that, and her lawyer should be objecting left and right to this. I hate these guys, though. I'm worked up. Be nice to my friend Meryl.
Can you tell the court exactly what she said?
Joanna wasn't very happy for a
Did
number
you
of
ever hear her
reasons.
say
One of-
that Mr. Kramer was insensitive to his son's needs?
Yes, but that was before.
Mrs. Hobbs, did you ever encourage Joanna Kramer to leave her husband?
No, I did not.
You can't interrupt a witness like that. Like, you can certainly craft your questions to get the answers that you want, but if they keep talking, like, you have to let them finish what they're saying. At the very least, the court reporter is going to yell at you to stop talking over each other because they can't type multiple conversations happening at the same time. But, like, this is not a lawyering tactic to interrupt the witness so that she can't explain herself. Like, the judge would be like, let the witness finish.
Things are not the same now. Ted is not the same man. You don't know how hard he's tried.
Mrs. Phelps, please.
They're beautiful together.
Mrs.
Just
Phelps.
beautiful.
Your Honor, the witness has been asked to step
If you
down.
could
I mean, again, like, trials take a long time before they actually happen. I don't know how long they take in custody battles, probably less than a regular full-blown trial, but, like, there would have been opportunity for these conversations to have been had before she was sitting on the witness stand trying to explain to Joanna all of her feelings and thoughts.
A lot of things I didn't understand. There's a lot of things I'd do different if I could. Just like I think there's a lot of things you wish you could change, but we can't. Some things, once they're done, can't be undone. If I understand it correctly, what means
means the most here is what's best for our son.
So he's going on and on and on. We didn't even get what question spurred this, but for the most part, a witness isn't gonna just sit up there kind of just like yammering on and on. He's gonna be asked questions by the lawyer and then he'll respond, and then it's a back and forth with the lawyer. It's not his time to sit up on the witness stand talking. Again, this would have all happened behind closed doors in separate conversations before this ever got to a trial.
I'm trying to answer the question. It's not yes or no. I'm sitting there in,
Mr.
in
Kramer,
my office.
yes or
I
no?
had 104 temperature. He's lying there sweating. I go home to be with him.
Your Honor.
Yeah, see right there, the court reporter would have been like, excuse me. Court reporters are really good at being assertive in the middle of trials and stuff. They just kind of yell like, stop it, so that they can type. I've always been impressed by them. It's usually ladies and they have to just like scream at full-blown attorneys and judges who are talking over each other. It's very funny.
Isn't it true that you told your ex-wife that you were responsible for the injury that permanently disfigured
I
your
object.
child?
If the counsel for the
Didn't you say to
petitioner-
her recently, when it happened, I felt I was guilty, I felt it was all my fault?
Objection.
So that's not the way the lawyer would enter that statement into evidence. He wouldn't read out loud something that she had told the lawyer that her ex-husband had said. The way that the lawyer would enter that into evidence is having her on the stand and asking, what did your ex-husband say to you about this fall? And then she could say that. This is not the proper way to enter that into evidence.
I'm sorry, I mentioned that accident to him 2 months ago, right after I saw you at Mellon's. And I never thought he would bring it up. Never. Believe me. I never would have mentioned it if I thought he'd pull a thing like
Meryl.
that.
She looks great this entire film. Iconic. Also, can we just take a step back though and remember that at the beginning of this film, Dustin Hoffman was the one who was a complete dick and she was just trying to be a mother and he was like completely ignoring all of her emotional needs. So the only way she felt she could get those needs met was by literally leaving the situation. And now somehow he's the victim in this situation. Not to mention just the fiery garbage hell that was being a woman in the 70s, like, but Dustin Hoffman's the victim. Okay, just so we're all on the same page. All right, so she was awarded custody, but then ended up giving it up. I don't know if that's the decision as it would come down today. Again, I don't know if there's bias against fathers in the 70s. Now I would say that there is not, and that like I was saying, that idea is toxic and overlooks a lot of details and layers of complication. But given that it would upend the child's entire life if he were to move in with Meryl Streep's character in this situation instead of staying with his father, it's possible that the court just wouldn't come down in the mother's favor in this situation, especially given that she just left for 18 months. I think that both of them had pretty equally weighted cases. That was really interesting. I enjoyed that film. I think that it was really well acted. I think even though it kind of felt like there was some like men's rights propaganda maybe sprinkled in there a little bit, like both Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep are such great actors that it felt human. It felt like a really kind of difficult and complicated situation that I think they humanized in a way that was really well done. Although some of the law wasn't 100% accurate, I think it was an accurate depiction of the emotional aspect of going through a custody battle, which certainly I think is better depicted through art and film than it is through the legal system, which can tend to be kind of cold and cut and dry in a way that is very unsatisfying for the people who get embroiled in it. So good job. Love Meryl. Icon to this day. Comment below if you have any suggestions for other films I should watch. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day. Goodbye.